Steve Gamache here with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review, and in this episode we are looking at the Konosuke MM Ebony Handle Aogami or Blue No. 2 Gyuto 210mm knife. So this line of knives uses a 3-layer construction, and on the outside you've got a soft iron cladding, and in the middle, so that's on either side of the core steel, and in the middle, the harder core steel, the cutting steel, is Aogami, or what's known as blue paper, number 2 reactive high carbon steel. Heat treats around 61, 62 Rockwell on that core steel. And then the construction, as I mentioned, is 3 layers. So you've got a soft iron reactive cladding on either side of that core steel, which does wrap around the top of the spine, which is quite polished, by the way. So this is an all reactive blade, so the cladding will patina and stain, and so will the core steel. The weight and dimensions on these will vary a little bit from knife to knife, but this particular one is 165 grams or 5.8 ounces. Edge length is about 202-ish, about 200 millimeters-ish from the tip all the way back around to the back of the heel, known as the chin, or about a little under 8 inches. The overall length is about 357 millimeters, or about 14 inches with these handles. And the spine thickness, these have a little bit of thickness coming out of the spine, but then a nice taper as we go down. Not a ton of taper, but we'll get a look at it here. So it's about 3.2 millimeters coming out of the handle. And then I measured it halfway down. It was about 2.4. And you'll see we do lose a little bit of thickness, a little bit of taper there. But then the real taper kind of occurs in the last, inch and a half or so. And it thins up nicely at the very tip where the grind comes in on the blade. The height on these is 47.9, almost 48, so pretty generous on height. And they've got beautifully crafted handles. These are key octagonal handles with ebony, and then the ferrule is known as laurel wood. Really nice fit and finish on these handles. They've even got a rounded butt end to them. You'll see they're rather thin and a little taller rather than being more squarish. Great fit and finish, excellent tight install on the handle. The circumference on these handles isn't large, but it tends to be actually pretty comfy when you go to hold it. So this one was around 69, 70 millimeters or 2.7 inches where the two woods meet. And you'll see they've chosen an old school style handle install where they've got a little bit of the tang showing going into the handle that's technically known as the maki or machi, depending on your pronunciation, maki. And what that is originally that was intended if the handle was burned on, if it loosened up, you could get a mallet and whack it and tighten the handle up and push the tang down a little bit more. This is glued in, so that's not a concern, but it's kind of a nod to the old school look, which I think is really cool. This knife has great fit and finish on it. You can see what they call a brushed finish on it, where the sanding marks go longitudinal, and this kind of looks, one of the users commented, this looks like probably a hand sand job, which I think it is. So a lot of effort put into this sand job on this finish job. And one thing nice about the horizontal or brushed finish, or some people call that a hairline finish, is that as you clean the blade and wipe the blade dry, you tend to get scratches in this direction just from the cloth or whatever. And so they'll move in the direction with the finish, and it helps hide that a little bit. You've got very nicely done hand chisel kanji on the right side of the blade as you would hold it. And you'll see with the current finish job on here, it's really hard to detect the cladding line, but it is there. As you would use this blade and the differences between the cladding and the core steel, as far as patina goes, you'd see a much more delineated line there where the cladding comes in. It's visible, but it's with the scratch pattern on here, it's really hard to tell. They did just a great job on this, but again, that would start to show up. I think we can, this is really hard to pick out, but it is there. It's kind of hard for me in person to pick it out, but it's there. So great polish on the spine, nice rounded spine, nice polish on the choil, the back of the blade here into the neck. Super comfortable. This had a pretty nice, maybe 6 out of 10 on my scale, out of the box edge on it. Very stiff blade, stout, very straight, great fit and finish. Just a beautiful blade. The handle is not the lightest in the world because of the ebony, but they do keep the diameter, or the size down to help lighten it up a little bit as well. But there's your balance point on that. So just in front of that choil, you know, right in about there. So definitely it's got a little bit of a handle weight bias to it. Let's look at it on the cutting board. So here's what the profile looks like. They've actually got a decent flat spot on these. I have the 240 version of this and the 210, and this is just kind of a compact version of the 240 as far as profile and shape. So you've got a decent flat spot on this thing, and then fairly aggressive belly towards the tip. So I'm getting pretty high on here without starting to dig that tip in. So this would rock really nice. It's got a little bit of an area towards the back for chopping, push-pull cuts. This will handle a lot of techniques really, really well. So beautifully crafted profile on this, smooth as butter, great fit and finish. They've had a discussion on the forums a little bit about the 240 version of this, and this seems to kind of follow that, where it's in contrast to some Konosuke style knives of this type. This has a little bit taller nose or tip section to it, so it carries a little more height here instead of kind of being a little more pointed. So this definitely follows the 240 model. It's just kind of a compact version of that. So beautifully crafted blade with excellent, easy to sharpen steel. So this is the Konosuke Ebony handled Awagami or blue paper number 2 Gyuto 210 millimeter knife.